Good morning, good evening, everyone, wherever you're joining from. Um, we have today as our guest Dr. Wadia, and we'll be getting into that, into a lot of details with him soon. But let me just take care of a few logistical items as we always do. Um, Please stay on mute and type away your questions in the chat window as you get them, and we'll make sure to answer them at the end. The folks who are not already on the community, there are enough reasons to be on the community and to join. Just scan the QR code on the screen or click on the link, and we'll send you the link offline. The As part of the community, there are various features and benefits we have announced in the past. You have access to Dr. Kai. Just have to type in at Dr. Kai in the community, and you get answers to medical questions. We have Coach Kai, which used to be earlier called Moderator Kai, and that's a clinical dietitian who is answering your questions. We announced in the last few weeks, we worked with hospitals and blood testing centers and were able to negotiate deals, discounts for all our members. We ourselves don't take any cuts, but we wanted to make sure that we got you access to meaningful discounts that you might want to avail of. We also created a custom recommended test panel. So if you don't want to use the labs that we have signed up with, but want to use your own lab, the custom recommended test panel that we have posted in the community, you can take that and go to any lab you want and get yourself tested. We use that panel for ourselves, and those panels are segregated by age and by gender. So women above 55, men above 55, and both the genders below that as well. And then we have the daily 1-minute video that we send out, which is evidence-based. So all those are existing benefits. The latest one we have added for this week is there are a lot of conversations on the community about protein supplements. For those who are not getting enough from their diet, they would benefit from this. We always recommend you try and get everything you need from your diet, but for some of us, if you're not getting it from our diet, then protein supplements and many other supplements may make sense. And what we have been able to do is we have done deals with 3 different supplement makers: Nutra Supplements, Wellbeing Nutrition, which is a Hindustan Unilever funded company, and the Whole Truth. And with each of them, what we have done is we have vetted products, uh, specifically the protein supplements, both whey isolate as well as whey concentrate, and in one case, even their vegan protein. And you see on the screen the discounts we were able to negotiate with them on your behalf. Now, what we've also done is, in addition to actually vetting these, and I'm going to talk a little bit about how we have vetted these, we have also been able to negotiate with them discounts across their entire list of products. So, whether it's their collagen, and some of them sell muesli, creatine, which I've written about in today's blog post, but we have not vetted them. So it's important for me to clarify that the ones that we have vetted are the ones that we have listed on the top half of the table. For the others, we've still been able to get a discount, but we have not vetted them ourselves. We also, as always, if you want to avail of any of these discounts, all you do is send a message directly to preventivehealth.ai, that account within the community. You can send a direct message to the preventivehealth.ai account. Provide your name so we know you're a member of the community, what product you want to get the discount on, and which organization you want to get it from. We'll give you the code, and after that, it's between you and the manufacturer. We are not involved because we don't take any cuts or any such thing. Okay. I want to quickly just talk through what we have done to vet these protein supplements that we just spoke about. So there are 2 parts to it. One is compliance and safety. So, I've listed all of them. I'm not going to go through that entire list, but because we are standard for what we consider to be vetted is if we are willing to put it into our own bodies. So we do that as use that as our filter for ensuring that it meets all the safety standards, whatever the compliance certificates and regulatory certificates that are needed. We want to make sure of all of that. In a few cases, we've even gone to their manufacturing facility to make sure it is done in a way that's professional and safe. So that's one aspect of what we evaluate. And the second aspect is ingredient quality. Again, there are lots of different things. We have pretty detailed reports we create internally, convince ourselves that this is something we'll put into our own bodies and only then recommend it. So that's what goes into our evaluation. We are very proud of the work we do. It's done with uh, to ensure that whatever we recommend is credible, safe, sustainable. So with that in mind, please do take advantage of these protein supplements. They're right now mostly Indian, and they're all Indian manufacturers, but one of them, the Hindustan Unilever one, also sells it in the US. We have not been able to get the discounts for the US market as yet, but at least for those in India, you can avail of them. All right. Next week's speaker is Dr. Renu Joshi. She's been a guest in the past. For those who may have missed it, she, along with her husband, Dr. Nirmal Joshi, they both practice at Penn State University in the US, and they were the co-creators of the movie The Brown Heart, which talks about heart disease amongst South Asians. Very, very well researched movie. But Dr. Renu Joshi is an endocrinologist by training. And so next week, we'll talk a lot about thyroid health specifically. All right. So that's that. Now, to the guest of honor, today we have Dr. Petros Vadia. Dr. Vadia is a leading neurologist and movement disorder specialist with, with more than 15, probably closer to 20 years of experience now. I'm not going to go through his background. It's all there on the screen. But what I do want to comment on is Dr. Wadi has been known to be a very, very helpful soul to the communities he's ever been a part of. I've heard this from a number of different sources, and I think it just is amazing to have a guest who not only is good at their craft, but is also has that the same value that we appreciate a lot, and that is one of ensuring that the community benefits. He practices at Jaslok, but interesting fact, he went to school in Pune, middle school and high school. So that's Dr. Wadia's quick background. And so without further ado, Dr. Wadia, welcome to the community video meet.
Hi, thank you. Good morning, good evening, depending on where you are, or good day. So let's get going.
Yes, let's do that. So why don't we start with the first question? And that is, you know, what are the earliest neurological signs of aging that we should be paying attention to, and how reversible are they? Because, we keep reading, whether sometimes in on social media, in journals, that loss of smell might flag early neurodegeneration. Is that true or a social media myth? Can you sort of provide some
So,
guidance on that?
so loss of smell is one of the early Parkinson's symptoms. But again, most people who actually have loss of smell will never report it as loss of smell. It's more often loss of taste rather than smell, because really you need to smell to taste as well. So having said that, I mean, everybody with loss of smell is not going to get Parkinson. So it's not so easy. I mean, just to say, oh, I have lost a smell, I'm going to get Parkinson. There are three or four what we call prodromal symptoms with Parkinson's. One is REM, sleep behavior disorder, where you shout, talk in your sleep, and that could be one of the very early markers to say that you are at risk of getting Parkinson. Doesn't mean you're going to get it.
Right.
Okay. Same with the loss of smell. even many of the patients with Parkinson's, if you look 20 years, 30 years back, many of them have constipation for many years, and many of them also have features of REM sleep behavior disorder. I mean, sorry, and depression and anxieties. Depression, anxiety, REM sleep behavior disorder, lack of smell. So these are all soft clinical biomarkers. But it's not enough to say, oh, I have all of this, I'm going to get Parkinson. No. I mean, not without a family history, not without a gene that's going to drive you to get Parkinson, not without any biomarker or anything like that. So I think just because you have and this doesn't mean you're going to get a neurological problem. Now, when you say earliest signs of neurodegenerative disease, there are many other things that happen with normal aging. So, what is normal aging? You get a very subtle slowness of gait, which you might see in the people in their 90s. Many of the people after a certain age will have hearing impairment, visual impairment, and in them there is a lack of sensory input. Even their nerves start to die back. You get peripheral neuropathy. Now, all of this also causes some degree of walking difficulty. But mind you, these changes are very subtle. The problem actually occurs when people attribute everything to aging.
Hmm.
Like half my patients will tell me, "Oh, Dad's been forgetting for 4 or 5 years, but we all thought it was just age. He's got 75 now. He's going to forget." No, nobody really forgets. So actually, if you see somebody slowing down, or somebody having forgetfulness, or somebody having a new problem, you need to go and talk to your doctor. Don't attribute it to normal aging. So I
Hmm.
think that's the message I would like to give the entire community. Because a lot of things get brushed on the carpet saying, oh my, got old. It's okay. It
Right.
doesn't happen. So whatever changes of aging are very subtle. I mean, those are detectable more on research tools rather than appreciable to a relative or a caregiver or a son or a daughter.
Hmm. That's actually great insight, Dr. Wadia, because effectively what you're saying is if you can detect it very clearly, that's a flag. At least go have
That's
the
a flag. That's
conversation.
that's the beginning of a disease. It's something going on. Something might be able to be corrected with correct medication. You might be able to diagnose the patient and approximate at least get the right advice. I mean, at the end of it, you may or may not be able to reverse it, but at least know what the hell's going on, right? Don't attribute it to aging.
Yeah. Yeah. And you mentioned two things I want to double click on. One is REM sleep. Um, is that something that you would actually look at a wearable and see my REM sleep percentage is changing, or is it more what you are doing during the night? Like you're talking about shouting and stuff like that.
No, so first of all of us have REM sleep. So sleep is non-REM and REM. REM stands for rapid eye movement. So in REM sleep, there is a little bit of rapid eye movements. This is the part of sleep where you actually get your vivid dreams. So a nice correlate for a person who's sleeping is if you're getting a lot of dreams means you are having good REM sleep. If you're not dreaming, you're not sleeping enough.
Hmm. Got it.
So
Got it. So,
so
yeah.
and again to get REM sleep, you have to have prolonged sleep. You cannot have this 3 hour, 4 hour sleep. That's you're not going to get enough REM sleep. And in fact, the REM period is when your memory consolidates. So it is very important that we all get our adequate REM sleep because so every day we have thousands of memories that we see. You may be going to work, driving your own car. You might see a blue Ferrari past you. Then you might see a gray Skoda past you. You might see somebody crossing the road, somebody with a stroller crossing the road. This is all every day registered in your memory, somewhere deep down. Most of it is irrelevant in your long term memory consolidation. You don't need to remember this the next day. Now, at the end of the day, the brain has a cleaning up. It's just like we clear the cache from a computer.
Hmm.
So this clearing of the cache of your computer occurs in REM sleep. If you don't get your REM sleep, the cache doesn't get cleared. And you don't get your REM sleep for a couple of months together, the brain is overloaded with memories it never needed, and the real memories that you needed are not being remembered.
Got it. So, I noticed that when I take an afternoon nap on the days I do that, it's short. So I see no on my wearable sensor, I see no REM sleep to the point you made earlier. When I sleep well in the nights, I find that the first half of the night has more of the deep sleep, maybe a little bit REM here and there. And the second half of the night is more of the REM sleep and less of the deep sleep.
100%. So the corollary is we all need 7 to 8 hours of sleep in the day, and we need that sleep. And I think the modern day professional is doing everything right except for sleep. I mean, you see that everyone has cut on their sugars, cut on their eating healthy, they've cut on their alcohol, hopefully, most of them. Not all, but they're eating healthy, they're exercising, everyone's going to the gym, everyone's having a trainer, everyone's walking, everyone's doing aerobics. But what are they not doing? They're not sleeping enough. And a lot of these young strokes or cardiovascular events, which are occurring in the 30s and 40s, beyond just the genetic risks, probably are from the lack of sleep.
Right. Yeah. Absolutely. This I found that whenever I write a blog post on sleep, that is the most read one because I think everybody seems to appreciate what they can do to improve that aspect of their life.
No, but
The other question, Dr. Vadia, is you also mentioned genes, right? Like there is this whole ApoE4, and what is the background on genetics playing a role in
so
this?
genetics, see, genes are what you're born with. You can't change them. Now, in Parkinson's, there are genes that put you at risk of Parkinson's. There are monogenetic causes of Parkinson's which make it. But even when you look at the genes, the monogenetic risk genes contribute about 5 to 7% of people who have early Parkinson's. Not
Mm.
all Parkinson's. If you look at all Parkinson's, even lesser. And if you have the you look at the at-risk score, it max is 10, 15%, 20%. So genes is not everything. It's also how we live, which is equally important.
Yeah,
And of course, there's a whole lot of unknowns in both the Parkinson's and the Alzheimer's. So ApoE4 is an Alzheimer's gene risk, but again, not that. But these are the ones that will occur with very early age of onset. So if you get Alzheimer's at 50, in your 50s, yeah, probably you have a genetic risk.
got it. Got it. But it's also, in some sense, helpful to know that genetics only play a sub 20% role, which means it's more in our control, our chances of getting it, right? That lifestyle plays a bigger role. So let's get to that. I mean, uh, what are I mean, there are lots of different aspects. So maybe we can go through them one by one. What are the environmental risks? I mean, I know today that's a huge issue, right? Just the amount of pollution most of us live with. And people talk about this PM, the particle size of various sizes. And do all of those things play a role in
So,
neurodegenerative diseases?
so environmental risks, I think there are two things. One is air pollution. So there's increasing work on air pollution. So in fact, the air pollution study started in Mexico, where I think this Lillian Calderon is the one who's actually done the work, where she started studying the role of air pollution on dogs. So dogs in Mexico City and dogs who lived outside Mexico City in less polluted areas. And she was able to demonstrate that dogs in the city who were in polluted areas had higher risk of neurodegeneration. And now I think there are several meta-analyses even looking at humans who are showing that yes, air pollution has its own risks. So I think it's difficult to quantify them, but I think we need more data. But yes, there is a factor on that one. But I mean, do we all have the luxury of moving to less air polluted cities? Doubtful.
Yeah. So that
I
was
think
one aspect of pollution, right? You said there was a second one.
microplastics. That's something we can change. I think the role of microplastics have been linked to many things. The brain part is still not got enough hard evidence, but if you look, my colleague at least is looking at infertility and microplastic, and she has demonstrated presence of microplastics in ovaries, in uterus, and in fact that's been published. So I think we're learning more. There's also this microplastic has been found in brain tissue. Now it's not very clear whether it actually promotes neurodegeneration by causing more inflammation, but it should. I mean, anything foreign will cause inflammation at some point. And microplastic is coming from all this takeaway food in not so thick plastic containers, in the PET bottles that we continuously drink water and cola from. So I think when we buy a bottle of mineral water, I think we need to really decide, is it really safer than taking water from a purified source at home and drinking it in either a metal or a glass bottle?
Yeah. And in fact, taking that one step further, um, anytime, like one of the things I've changed personally is instead of cooking food in the microwave in a plastic container, move it to glass or
Oh, for
something that's
sure.
not plastic.
For sure, for sure. That's for sure.
Right? So that's environmental. Definitely, it seems to have an impact. You spoke about sleep.
One
Yeah.
more environmental factor, I think, which we've not covered, is pesticides.
Hmm.
So pesticides have very clearly been associated with Parkinson's. And so I mean, one is there's an occupational risk for those who are working in the agriculture industry, but also many of the foodstuffs still contain the pesticide when you consume it. So I think it's probably a push to more organic farming, less pesticide consumption, but I think we'll have to find that balance.
And I guess the one easy thing, or relatively easy thing we can all do is give it that extra wash, all the vegetables and fruits you bring in.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah. On sleep, I know we covered it, but any other aspect to keep in mind when, what helps with improving the quality of sleep? Because we talk about, hey, don't eat too close to dinner, to bedtime, uh, stuff like
Yeah.
that.
So I think there's sleep is an area which is exploding with information. Couple of things that I think you all need to be aware of. We have something called as glymphatics. So most people are aware of lymphatic tissue in the body. So glymphatics are the lymphatics of the brain, which basically are the waste keepers of the brain. They are responsible for waste clearance. Now, there's a lot of harmful substances that accumulate in the brain. They have to be cleared out. A lot of the neurodegeneration occurs because of accumulation of misfolded proteins. Parkinson's, for one, is a misfolded protein of alpha-synuclein. Alzheimer's has excessive amyloid deposition. Now, these glymphatics, if they're working fully, and they work fully only at night, they again work only at night. They don't work in the daytime. So if you don't sleep enough, the glymphatics gets less time to work. So you have incomplete garbage clearance, and your city is full of garbage, which is your brain. So I think even if you sleep better, your glymphatics get their full quota of work, and hopefully they're clearing more unwanted elements which may later on promote neurodegeneration. So that's one more reason to sleep more. I just when we were chatting just noticed a question pop up saying that when you say 7 hours of sleep, can I take it in two tranches of 3 hours each? I think the answer is no. And the reason is because Nikhil itself just told you when he looked at his watch, when you're sleeping, you can divide your sleep into, if you're sleeping continuously 7 hours, your REM sleep actually kicks in the later part of your sleep. So if you're sleeping in two pieces, you're going to get less amount of REM sleep than if you slept one full stretch of 7 to 8 hours. And that's why if you've slept that 7 to 8 hours, you really wake up refreshed.
Yeah, true. Um, and as you were saying this earlier, it's left a very powerful image in my head about the glymphatic system and how I'm almost imagining my brain right now is full of crap on the days I have not slept well. So
Yeah,
I
I'd refrain from using that, but anyway.
those are my words, not yours. But I think it's a. I have found that when you can visualize what's happening, you tend to follow certain habits better, right? And I think this glymphatic system and the fact that it's a garbage clearance house that only does its job at night is a, I think, a powerful visual for us to keep in mind. Right? Um, it also then brings up another question. Let's say someone has slept 7 hours in the daytime, in the night. What is the value? Is
So
it?
there's another whole.
Sorry, go ahead.
I was actually going to tell you that there's so one is you need to sleep your 7 hours. Two is you need your REM sleep. Three is you also need the circadian clock. So we are designed to sleep a few hours after sunset, maybe 3 to 4 hours after sunset, and wake up with sunrise, which I would say a large chunk of the population doesn't do, especially I think with late starts of work schedules in India. But so there is probably even a merit in trying to stick to that circadian clock because there's data even showing that sticking to the circadian clock is better than sleeping maybe at 2 a.m. and waking up at 9 a.m. You might complete your 7 hours, but the effectiveness and quality may not be as good. But that's, I think, a very hotly debated issue because, I mean, if you look at any of the teenagers, they all have totally different circadian rhythms.
Right. Yeah. And so then, taking that further, is it a good thing or a not a good thing to take a nap in the afternoon?
So, as long as you don't compromise on your night sleep, a small nap in the afternoon is in fact good, and in fact, the lymphatics work even then. So, in fact, a short siesta is not bad, provided it doesn't become so long that your night sleep gets compromised. So, I think maybe a 30-minute, 20-minute cat nap is not a bad idea. And it may not even have to be every day. In fact, they've even shown that if you do it once or twice a week on a Saturday or a Sunday, it still helps recharge the system. So it's not harmful, but I think it should not eat into your night sleep. If you sleep in the afternoon and can't sleep at night, then better not sleeping in the afternoon.
Right. Yeah. That's actually very, very clear guidance. Um, Moving to exercise as the other
I think
lifestyle
just
aspect.
before we end sleep,
Yeah.
I think the last, I think a very important point, I think as far as neurology is concerned, is to touch upon obstructive sleep apnea. For those who I think who are not initiated, obstructive sleep apnea is a condition where um, you have um, difficulty breathing at night because of your pharyngeal, your uvula may fall backwards. So it's actually a peripheral problem. But the low oxygens that you land up at night keep breaking your sleep. So you can have people who have been woken up 50 times at night because the oxygen dips to 80. Normal oxygen saturation for everyone, if you remember COVID times, is 93. So if your oxygen saturations drop to 80, that's a serious problem, and that happens to several people at night. So you have what is called as an apnea hypopnea index. So in those people, they need what is called as a CPAP machine at night, and that can reverse a lot of the memory problems. So that's one of the causes of reversible forgetfulness, memory problems, and typically OSA is associated with obesity, but we are also seeing a lot of lean, normal BMI people who have obstructive sleep apnea. So I
Mm.
think that needs to be looked into. And especially if you wake up feeling not refreshed, wake up with a headache every day, despite sleeping the so-called normal hours, that's then when you need to suspect of obstructive sleep apnea because you're not waking up refreshed because there are micro breaks in your sleep occurring every time the oxygen drops. Obstructive sleep apnea has been associated with a higher risk of heart attack, with a higher risk of stroke, and also a higher risk of neurodegeneration. So, every reason to treat it. In fact, we have lots of people who we diagnose with obstructive sleep apnea, but very difficult to convince them that they have to sleep with a mask and take oxygen at night. But it's definitely something that's reversible, controllable, and I think you'll need to be aware of it.
Yeah. That's a very good insight for those of us who are observing that, maybe it's time to do something about it. Um, on sleep itself, what's the role of deep sleep?
So deep sleep is basically when you get into REM sleep. So I think we've covered that. You have to sleep adequate, deep, soundly. That's what's important.
Because on many of these wearables, they give you deep sleep separately, REM sleep separately, awake time separately. That's how they break it up. So, uh,
So there are four stages of non-REM sleep: stage one, two, three, four. So I suspect three and four they're calling as deep sleep.
hmm, I see.
Now, one more thing, I think tips for sleeping well. I mean, a lot of people have insomnia, and one of the cause of modern day insomnia is the blue light of our screens. So I think couple of tips I think to be ensure that we sleep well is to stop screen time 1 hour before bedtime, not to have any stimulants like coffee, tea, or even coke about few hours before bedtime, maybe after 6 or 7. So these are things that probably we can do to, and reading to bed really helps.
Yeah. And maybe of all the things you said, Coke is something that's worth not doing at all, given that
Absolutely.
it has so many other issues with the amount of sugar and so on. But yeah, I was stopping a few hours at least. I think I've heard the number of 6 hours or 8 hours before bedtime to stop the coffee and tea. Um, from an exercise perspective, Dr. Wadia, what is the role that exercise plays? Because that's always been touted as one of the most, uh, product-
Yeah,
most
absolutely.
exercise has been touted as one of the most effective ways to counter neurodegeneration. Is that true? And in what way?
So there's a lot of data showing exercise beneficial for Parkinson's, for Alzheimer's. For Parkinson's, cycling, aerobic exercise, walking, running, swimming. Even I think everyone needs a little bit of weights because otherwise you're going to land up with sarcopenia in your old age. So you need to do some degree of weight training. I mean, it doesn't have to be like bodybuilding, just basic weight training. So we need exercise for sure. Along with the physical exercise, as far as the brain is concerned, we also need cognitive stimulation and cognitive exercises. So I think reading a book, doing a crossword, doing a Sudoku, training your brain. If you have a high cognitive job, that's good enough. You don't need anything else. So you need to have continuous cognitive stimulation, even in your retirement years. And that really helps prevent Alzheimer's. And it doesn't prevent Alzheimer's, but it increases your cognitive networks. So basically, it increases your neuronal networks in the brain. As you get Alzheimer's and the brain degenerates, these networks are going to break down. But if you started out with say 2 million neuronal networks, you have to break that many down to reach a symptomatic stage versus if you started out with say half a million. So if you build a good network of neurons, you are able to at least delay your symptoms. You may not delay the disease, but you'll delay your symptoms.
As you were saying this, I was wondering what's when someone's going through, their brain is going through Alzheimer's or Parkinson's, what's actually happening in the brain? Are these neuronal networks breaking down? Is that what's actually physically happening?
So you're losing neurons. In Parkinson's, before you actually get your symptoms, you lost 50% of those dopaminergic neurons.
Hmm.
So there is a buffer, and that buffer is almost half the number of neurons. But when you reach below that, you're going to tip over. So many of the patients actually with Parkinson's, we see actually coming up, they have a viral infection and suddenly they become slow because they were tottering on that just that perfect number of neurons and doing okay. And then they got an infection which stressed the whole system out, which caused inflammation. Those neurons became slightly hypoactive, and then all the symptoms got manifested.
Hmm.
Then when you dig deep, they say, yeah, we were a little slow, we were walking a little slow, but suddenly it tips, the balance tips. And we saw a lot of that in COVID. So one COVID infection and later on you landed up with a neurodegenerative disease. But actually it was not there. It was there in the beginning itself. It was just that that viral infection stressed your neurons. You were at the brink of something to come, and that went down.
Interesting. Yeah, that's sort of the final
The
straw
final,
that broke.
absolutely.
Got it. And you know, I was as you were saying, I was also thinking about the fact that one of the tests that people recommend, a simple test that people recommend to know whether you know whether your body is in a good state, your brain is a good state, is the one leg balance test. The ability to just stand to balance on one leg. That's sort of usually spoken about from the viewpoint of cardiovascular health. Does that have anything to do with brain health?
Yeah. So there's no one single test that tells you you're healthy. I don't think we believe in one single test for anything. You got to do a series and batteries of tests to know that you're functioning.
I, I think we just
Do
lost audio for a
a
few seconds.
basic cognitive screen, basic locomotor screen.
Yeah, now
Am I
we can
audible?
hear you. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So you test if you're walking in one line, you test that. You test your gait, you test your movement speeds. So we call this bradykinesia if you're slow. So you do multiple tests. I don't think you just based on one, just stand on one leg, you're all right. This
No, I
sounds
mean,
too
there are a
simple to me.
series of such, quick ways to know whether you're on the right track. It's not one, but what
No,
are
no, I think
the,
there's a lot more. There's a
yeah,
lot more.
what are the biomarkers that or imaging tools that you would use to detect uh, neurodegeneration?
So it depends on what, I mean, the commonest two degenerations would be Alzheimer's and Parkinson's. So till now, we had no biomarkers for Alzheimer's. Even today in India, which is, I would say, not so bad off in the healthcare circuit, we still don't have the amyloid imaging, which is required to diagnose Alzheimer's today. So we have MRIs, we have lots of basic PET scans, which will identify blood flow patterns. We have cognitive screenings, but we don't have the absolute biomarker, which is either amyloid imaging or looking at CSF biomarkers of CSF AB42 or phosphorylated tau or neurofilament light chain. But then these are not easy to do because CSF means you have to put do a lumbar puncture, take fluid from your cerebrospinal fluid. So these are very difficult tests. But what's being done for the newer therapies for amyloid, which have just been launched 2023, is amyloid imaging. And of course, they're launched with a lot of controversy. One of the most controversial FDA approvals was aducanumab, which has been later on withdrawn. But they are available now. Lecanemab is available, and they're I think they're the first generation amyloid therapies. So I'm hoping they'll get better over time.
Got it. So if there was something you would, if someone came to you and said, I'm feeling a little bit, I'm beginning to forget, does it come down to you talking to them, figuring it out, diagnosing them, or would you also have them go through any specific imaging test?
Oh, so there's a lot to do. So I mean, we have a lot of people who will come to us saying, "Doc, I'm forgetting." I would say 80% don't have Alzheimer's. So there's a lot of people who just have stress, depression. So you get what is called a pseudo dementia. So depression manifesting as forgetfulness, and most of them are not sleeping well because they're so stressed and worked out. So that's the commonest, and that's the happiest diagnosis to give anybody because it's going to get better. You treat the depression, you're going to get cured. So it's one of those reversible dementias that makes me really happy because I can do something with the patient. One of the second commonest causes is obstructive sleep apnea, which has been undiagnosed. The other reversible causes of dementia would be B12 deficiency. So I think it's very important for those who are vegetarian and that you have to take some degree of B12 supplementation because whatever you do, milk cannot supplement enough B12 for you. You need 2 liters of milk to get your daily requirements, and that milk has to be of highest quality, which doesn't exist.
Hmm. Right. And so if you take that further and we get into food, are there foods that you would say absolutely double down on or stay away from?
I think we overhype the food issue. So there is a role for healthy eating. So the Mediterranean diet is what most people think is like the best food, but I think it has to be balanced food. And I think we also have to have homemade, I mean, we should make our own food rather than try and get processed food. So I think food that is made rather than processed, which is healthy, which healthy balance of carbs, proteins, not deep fried stuff. I think that's what you need. And of course avoid all the absolutely miserable extra sugars, the cokes. I think those are really unhealthy. But I think when it comes to food, you have to also talk about alcohol.
Hmm.
And I think everybody is destined to know what is normal with alcohol is a very big thing. So like I don't drink much and I just drink a quarter or once in a week, and that's 180 ml of alcohol. And like, you really think that's normal? So I think we all need to understand that binge drinking is as bad as drinking daily, and I don't think it's probably worse. So if you drank 30 ml every day, it's probably better than binge drinking 180 to 200 ml on a weekend.
And what's the mechanism at a very high level, Dr. Vadia, of what's happening when you drink? What is going on what is alcohol doing?
So so I think there's no advantage to alcohol in the brain. There's not a single thing that alcohol benefits from the brain benefits from alcohol. There was some study showing some minuscule cardiovascular benefits, but none to the brain.
And even those have
So
now been debunked. So now there is nothing even
yeah,
from a
absolutely.
cardiovascular end.
So yeah, I mean, you feel good with alcohol, but I think everything in life has to be in moderation. I mean, I've had people in their 40s who drunk so much that they've actually developed multiple strokes. I mean, I had somebody who unfortunately passed away, but he had so many problems that he actually couldn't even control his urine up. And he used to just, even before he reached the elevator of his house, he'd have wet his pants. So you can reach that stage. So you have to be careful with what you're doing to your body.
Yeah, and you have to be careful today because it will show up in 10, 20 years and maybe even sooner.
Correct. Correct. So it's not cool to like go drinking, smoking cannabis, having street drugs. You're going to pay the price at some point or the other.
Yeah, yeah. Um, are there specific supplements? You mentioned B12. Many of us are deficient in B12, vitamin D. Are there any that are, you know, good for the brain, or should
No,
we
I
just
think
rely
correct.
mostly
I
of it
think
from food?
correcting these two vitamins is important if they are deficient. And the second thing is like if you have neuropathy, peripheral neuropathy, especially diabetics, you need to replace ALA. So, but those are specific supplements related to that particular thing. I mean, no other real supplements. Another thing I'd also like to caution is a lot of people will go on to different pathies, allopathy, homeopathy. You have to understand that every drug also has their own risks. Ayurvedic drugs, certain drugs, not all, some of them are very good. Certain drugs have heavy metal components in them. Now, unfortunately, they don't have a strict labeling system like the allopathic world, where every content of the drug is mentioned. There you have heavy metals, and heavy metals can cause deposition in the brain and can cause serious toxicity. So you can get lead poisoning and a lot of other challenges with arsenic poisoning with heavy metal consumption in Ayurvedic drugs. So be careful about that.
Yeah. The whole supplement world in general is not regulated, and so are non-allopathic. And so the point I think is critical for everyone to keep in mind. Be careful what you put into your body. If it's an artificial or if it's a supplementary source, make sure you really need it. Uh,
See, most
and
people, if you eat a healthy diet, you don't need a crazy number of supplements.
yeah, yeah, absolutely true. Are there I know we've spoken about drinking as one habit to avoid as much as possible. Are there any other such habits? I mean, smoking seems to be the other one that I imagine has a big impact on brain health.
for sure. Smoking, vaping, but I think more on lung health than brain health. But yeah, they're not helpful.
Got it. Um, Dr. Wadia, this is your profession. You live and breathe this. What do you do if you're open to sharing your personal routine? What are things that you have made sure to incorporate into your life, and what are things you've absolutely cut out from your life to live a long, healthy brain life?
So for one, I don't drink. I never drunk, and I never enjoyed the taste of it. But I think if my kid told me I had a drink once in a while, I wouldn't hold it against him. So I think a couple of social drinks is okay. I don't think I would hold anyone. I don't enjoy it. That's all. So, but I don't think I'd be averse if someone said, "Oh, I had a glass of beer or a glass of wine." Fine, go ahead. So the second thing is, I think I sleep and I try to get my 7 hours of sleep, preferably. I mean, there are those unavoidable days when you got a call in the middle of the night that woke you up. There are times when I haven't slept well because of such calls, and I've actually canceled my morning training and just slept in because
Mm,
I feel I'd rather sleep than exercise. So I think you got to balance it out. And I think not sleeping is is worse than not exercising that day.
yeah. Yeah. In
So
fact,
I think
exercising when you have not slept well could actually uh, hurt you, right? So yeah, your point I think is well taken. Do both, but on the days you haven't slept well, be careful about exercise. But your point was well taken, Dr. Wadia, about exercise and sleep are both important, but on the days you have not slept well, uh, maybe take that time to get that extra sleep back in rather than going to exercise.
the other thing I think that probably a lot of people I think should be doing, and I many times guilty of not doing, is eating early. Eating your dinner early so that you have enough time between your meal and sleep. And trying to do a 2 hour gap between dinner and sleep is really good because you've digested your food, so you really can sleep well.
Yeah, yeah. There are a lot of questions coming up, so let me ask my last one, and then we'll move to the member questions. One of the things I just wrote about today, in fact, was the increasing evidence about creatine as a supplement beyond just for muscle building, but recent studies seem to show pretty good benefits even for the brain. Is that something that you are beginning to see, look into? What is your thought on that?
I don't think we have enough evidence on creatinine yet for the brain.
Okay.
No
Let's
more
go
time.
to questions. The first question is, I think you've already answered about the continuous versus sleeping in batches. Next question, how is randomness good for the brain? What are some of the practices we can incorporate in our daily lives to keep sharp?
So I think anything that exercises the brain is good. So I mean, I don't know what you really mean by randomness, but I think anything that keeps the brain active is good. But I think overly multitasking is probably not good because you're overwhelming the brain.
Hmm,
So I mean, people who
got
think
it.
they can multitask and do five things at one time, I think you need to think again because
Yeah. Um, the next question is, what effect do you think GMO foods might have on overall and particularly on brain health?
so by GMO foods you mean
The genetically modified uh, crops.
uh I think I don't know, I don't think we have clear evidence to show that GMO is harmful or helpful in terms of neurodegeneration. I think we need more data for that.
Got it. Uh, I think Devesh had a question. He missed what you said. I think that time the audio broke up. What should we skip if you have neuropathy?
No, no, skip no. Add ALA. ALA is a supplement.
Yeah, that's part of the it's the omega 3, right? It's part of the omega 3
No,
combination.
no, it's a separate substance. Sorry, GLA. So GLA is the supplement that we use. So it's used for peripheral neuropathy.
GLA. Okay,
Yeah,
understood.
gamma linoleic acid,
Okay,
gamma linolenic acid.
got it. Um, Alzheimer's is sometimes called type 3 diabetes. What should pre-diabetics look out for in terms of changes?
So I think one thing that really helps for those who have slight obesity is to lose weight. A lot of diabetes, especially the type 2 diabetes, can be reversed by weight reduction. I know it's easier said than done. I mean, for anybody who's struggling with trying to lose weight, it's a big joke to tell somebody, oh, you need to lose 10 kilos. But but I think there's a lot of people I know who've done intermittent fasting and literally stuck onto it who've lost weight. But then there's even an NEGM study that looked at intermittent fasting versus portion control. And I think both of them noticed that both of them are equally good in preventing obesity. I was reading a very interesting uh, WhatsApp forward that day and made me think. So there was I mean, if anyone's been to Japan, you realize Japan is the king of vending machines. And
Oh, okay,
the
now.
question, yeah, the question is why are the Japanese not obese? And the reason is that the portion sizes in the vending machine, their bottle sizes are so small, their chip packet sizes are so small. And a lot of the vending machines even have healthy food options as well.
Hmm. Yeah. Um, what is your opinion about magnesium supplements for sleep?
So there, I think it's a lot of people see that it helps sleep and it's reasonably healthy. It's not going to harm you. So if you're not sleeping well, it's worth trying magnesium. But again, what's the issue with sleep? So magnesium helps if you have a lot of cramps in your leg or you're tired, muscle cramps, it helps you sleep better. While if your problem is not getting a circadian rhythm, you're sleeping only at 1 and 2 in the morning, probably melatonin is a better thing to do. But remember, melatonin takes 2 hours to work. It
Yeah.
doesn't work immediately.
Yeah. And I would just add that, there are many forms of magnesium and each one does provide some slightly different benefits. Magnesium glycinate, magnesium threonate seem to help the most with sleep. Um, and the other thing about melatonin is I think by about 2 a.m., if you go to sleep, if you go to bed on time, by about 2 a.m. or so, your melatonin is sort of bottoming out. So if you're going to go to sleep late, you have very little left. So that's, to Dr. Wadia's point, take your melatonin if you're going to go to sleep late because your body is not going to produce too much of that after 1 and 2 a.m. Okay. The next question is, I do tend to forget names, but I don't forget faces and passwords. How does one sort of reconcile this?
So again, it's very difficult, I mean, to answer an individual question, but I mean, if you're forgetting names, I think you have to first go through the basics. Are you sleeping enough? Are you stressed out? Are you depressed? Do you have obstructive sleep apnea? Do you have B12 deficiency? All these are correctable things. Or are you just overwhelmed with work or so stressed out? I think first evaluate that. And if
Yeah.
everything is negative, see your neurologist. Don't leave it.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, I think Bharti's question has been answered. You mentioned earlier that, try new things, do Sudoku and do crosswords and do things to challenge your brain if you already don't already have a very high cognitive load job. Um, some suggestions. What do people who are like frequent travelers or people working in like night shifts? What is your feedback or advice to them?
So it's actually difficult because I mean night shift is going exactly against the circadian rhythm. So it's a compromise, but it's a compromise people make because they have no choice, but they need a job. But I think things that can help is if you're not sleeping because of your frequent shift schedules, melatonin is something that definitely can work. I have pilots who are taking melatonin because they're like whacked out. I mean, they are the path of people who have shift duties and have no sleep. They're, they're totally whacked out because you wake up in a different time zone. You're in a different. You move from one time zone to the next time zone. You're sleeping in daytime in one country. Night you were in nighttime in some other country. There's it's very difficult. But melatonin comes to your rescue. But again, they're very scared about taking anything because everything is regulated in the pilot world.
Hmm.
But I think a low dose melatonin probably can help in such situations. But again, it's habit forming. After a point, you'll not be able to sleep without that melatonin. So most people, I think, in their younger years, are able to just manage the sleep. I think when they get older, it really gets to you, the shift duties.
Yeah, yeah. Um, I think the next question, I'm not sure whether it is directly relevant or in your area of expertise, rather, but the question was talking about obesity. What do you think about GLPs?
Yeah, so definitely not my area of expertise. I think you have to weigh out the side effects. There's so yeah, they're definitely causing weight loss, but there is a risk of pancreatitis. There are other risks. So I think go with the advice of an endocrinologist if you're deciding to use any of them.
You're again on mute. You went on mute.
Yeah, no, it's so go with all the side effects. Understand the side effects.
Yeah, yeah, that's good advice. And I think the last question that I've seen from the community is there a direct relationship between gut health and the brain health?
So very interesting question. And I think we didn't cover it because of the time constraints, but Parkinson is believed to originate from the gut. So there's a lot of uh, data looking at gut microbiota and Parkinson's versus those who are healthier, which have better microbiota. In patients who are not doing well, there's even thought that maybe we should incorporate better gut microbiota. I mean, so you get probiotics, which might help you. And there is some data showing probiotics may help Parkinson, but really the data has only come out that probiotics relieves constipation in Parkinson, but doesn't change the course of Parkinson. So I think more data on it, but the gut neurons also are dopamine producing neurons. So they're in the same system. So we have neurons not just in the brain, but they're also other rest of the body. So there is a gut brain axis. It's a lot talked about, but I think direct correlation of what the gut does to the brain is still missing.
In general, you would say keep your gut healthy because if it does have an impact, you've taken care of that as well.
Correct.
Right? And the one thing that you spoke about probiotics, the prebiotics, but probiotics are the actual microbiome, and there are well-known sources of like kimchis and foods like that have a great effect on the probiotic world. But there are now more and more companies that are trying to ride this wave and selling these probiotics. And many of them, at least recent studies at Stanford, I've seen show that those supplements don't seem to survive the bile and all the acids to make their way. Food is still the best way to get into your microbiome rather than supplements.
No, no. So I would not prescribe probiotics as a health food. No way. Probiotic is required for those who have a problem, and that too
Mhm.
constipation in Parkinson's, yes. But it's not a health food. And that's why I said I don't believe in crazy supplements.
Yeah.
Healthy food is far more important than filling your plate with supplements.
Yeah, and I really want the community to sort of take that in because right now in India there are all these companies coming out riding this wave, and it's causing a lot of chaos. And so, food, use supplements only when there is a clinical need for it, and that too recommended by a doctor. Do not take it because it's going to cost you a lot of money, but not going to give you any benefit at all. So I think that I don't see any other questions. So I think that covers the questions. Dr. Wadia, thank you so much. I definitely have got some very key takeaways. I'm now going to be thinking about the glymphatic system a lot. And that's a great visual. The days I need to really motivate myself to get in that extra 1 hour of sleep versus trying to get up early to, get a meeting done. But it was very, very helpful, very insightful. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Nikhil, and thank you the entire community for listening to me.
Yeah, great. Thank you. Bye.